Good morning. My name is Mary McPhail Gray. I'm a member of this congregation. I'm proud to welcome you on this beautiful, gorgeous day. What happened to winter? We join in community together to share our faith and our commitments, face the reality of our challenges, and celebrate the special hero of our faith today. As we gather, may you all be truly present by turning off your cell phones. Unitarian congregations are unified by a commitment to theological diversity, inclusivity, social justice, emphasizing the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Key beliefs include the importance of relationships built on justice, equality, and compassion, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, and the interconnectedness of all existence. Our 7 principles of belief are here above me. We are proud to recognize that we are now a recognized member of the National Unitarian Community. Our covenant is to engage each other in respect, compassion, and generosity in all our endeavors. As we begin our service with some announcements that we wish to share, most important, next Sunday is our annual meeting on the 25th. We will have reports of our activities and commitments. We'll pass the budget for the coming year and elect officers and members of the board. It will be followed with a wonderful luncheon and plenty of time to visit. To decide what you are bringing, be sure to check the sign-up sheets on the back table and place your name where you're inspired. The sharing circle will not meet the second time this month because of the annual meeting schedule. Women's luncheon will be at Martyrs Restaurant on Tuesday, January 20th at noon. Respond to Mary Schaefer to indicate that you are coming. Let me see, I forgot the title here. The book group will meet on Thursday at Somos at 10:30 a.m. to discuss Georgia, a novel of Georgia O'Keeffe by Dawn Tripp. We hope you can join us for a book that looks into the life of a very unusual and courageous woman and the breadth of her extraordinary talent and art. Questions could be directed at Barbara Martinez. The men's group will meet on Wednesday, the 21st of this month at 4 o'clock. Check with Chuck Fawns for the location and other details. Afternoon games will start on January 28th, the fourth Wednesday of the month, at 2:30 at the home of Mary Schaefer. Check with her for reserves and to get more details. We are continuing our outreach to the Nest, the homeless shelter, and we need to have donations of food for the breakfasts. We could use 2 or 3 additional people to help deliver food during the days. Place donations in the plaid box at the back, and remember, they do not have cooking facilities, so whatever you bring for breakfasts has to be hand food. As people of many beliefs, we are encouraged to embrace and practice different forms of spirituality that resonate with our hearts and minds. To learn more about this community, please remember to read the announcements in the newsletter coming out. The weekly letter gives us a rich variety of ideas to manage our life and to give to others in need. Thank you to Rachel, to Julian, Sarah, Chuck, and Gail, and others who keep that information coming to us. Because we want to meet you and share ideas, we wish to recognize any new attendees today. Whether you were a first timer or a returnee after a bit of absence, we would like to say hello to you and know how you found us. If you are new or returning after an absence, please come, raise your hand, and Brian will bring the microphone to you. Do we have any people in that category? It's a familiar community. Special appreciation to those who continue to bring this congregation alive. To the Reverend Diana Davies, who leads us in spiritual exploration and community. To the board, who continues to lead our congregation in all financial and administrative matters. To Martha Grossman, for her continued musical expression to feed our souls every time we meet. To Rachel Cohen, who makes all things communication and administration work. To Brian, who solves all technical problems. Today, flowers were brought by two flower gifters. The flowers here are from Gail. Thank you, Gail. And the flowers back on the table in the rear were brought by Diane. Thank you, Diane. I wish to make some special comments in reference to our principles of belief and our commitments to a community. We are enjoying and being challenged by some changes in the congregation. Members have moved, others have resigned positions. We are a talented group. People here have raised interesting families. They've occupied responsible jobs in a variety of areas. They've enriched their lives by the community that they created. A number of new members have joined during COVID, and we are robust and talented. I invite you to act on those values by joining one of the committees or becoming a lay leader. A lay leader means you have the opportunity to serve, to lead a service 2 to 4 times a year, depending on what you're comfortable with. You will be trained and supported by an experienced crew. And the outreach committee, which meets once a month, usually on Zoom, share information about the agencies that we support financially. And repeating, we take action by donating to the homeless shelter. If you have thoughts about wanting to be more active in the congregation, please talk to any of the people with green tags who are on the board. Talk to Margot, myself, or Betty regarding the outreach committee, and give your talents where they're felt strongly.
Welcome again. In your courage and in your fear, in your joy and in your heartbreak, in your exhaustion and in your energy, and all that you are, all you have been, and all you are becoming, you are welcome here today. If you're joining us for the first time, I'm Reverend Diana Davies. My pronouns are she, her. As a reminder, if you're someone who likes to read along as you listen to this sermon, there are copies on the table as you came in. On this Martin Luther King Sunday, our opening words come from Reverend Dr. King's very last speech, delivered hours before his assassination in 1968. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. And I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go to the mountaintop. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know that we, as a people, will get to the promised land. Please rise in body or in spirit as we light our chalice. The words are printed in your order of service. We light our flaming chalice to illuminate the world we seek. In the search for truth, may we be justice. In the search for justice, may we be loving. And in loving, may we find peace. Let's sing our song for gathering, which is also in your order of service, Spirit of Life, Fuente de Amor. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Root, hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí. Y al corazón, cántale tu compasión. Sopla a volar, sube en el mar, hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Arraigame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí. Please be seated.
In authentic relationships, we share those things that are the sorrows of our souls and dance with the joys in our hearts. In this time, in this congregation, we are committed to developing authentic relationships. If you are ready to share something today, please come forward, speak into the microphone, and drop a stone in the water while sharing your thoughts.
I'm choosing a white stone.
For another friend who felt while she was alone, living alone, on Sunday, was found on Tuesday, airlifted to Denver where she died. This is for the field here. She was very active in the arts and a big supporter of everyone. This is for her transition and journey.
I want to express my sadness about the elevation of violence that has happened in our country, and the not clear path before us all to try to step out of this. I want to express my sadness about, a point blank public murder of Renee Good, and now an administration that is attacking the school where her 6-year-old son goes and trying to withdraw federal funding from that school because it teaches kindness. And I am very deeply, deeply saddened about it all. And I hope my sadness, relates to all your sadness about what's going on in this time. However, I think we are so lucky to be here in this enclave with progressive thinking, compassionate community, and Democrats.
I would just like to add to that I sent a postcard 3 or 4 days ago to Mr. Frey, who's the mayor of Minneapolis, encouraging him. And I told him that millions of people were admiring his clarity and the way he has judged what appears to be a murder of one of his citizens. And I would just like, and I didn't send one to Tim Walz, and I regret that. So this week, if you have some postcards in an old drawer at home, get online and get their addresses and let them know they're supported, because I can't even imagine what a day in their lives is like right now. So anyway, with love for both of those men.
So on Monday, last Monday, we lost an important person in our Unitarian Universalist faith. Many of you know and love the song "All Will Be Well." We used it once during a meditation here. The composer of that song, Reverend Meg Barnhouse, passed away last Monday. She was most recently the senior minister at the UU Congregation of Austin.
She was my first minister. She was interim at the UU congregation in Princeton, where I became a UU. She will always be my first minister. I will miss her as a colleague, and our faith, I know, will miss her beautiful songs and her beautiful words and her incredible sense of humor.
Last Saturday, Bob Weir of the Grateful Dead died, and he was a beautiful soul, led a movement that encouraged love and connection and care, and it's been extraordinary to watch, like someone pointed out on the feeds of millions of people. All of a sudden there was love and care and gratitude for days and days because of his death, following on the heels of the murder of Renee Good, where there was so much hatred, and just that alone was so interesting. But it's really, anyway, I feel sad, and it's really affected me, and it feels like the end of a huge era. And he was the kid in the band, and he, anyway, there was a beautiful memorial for him, a huge gathering in San Francisco. We watched it live yesterday. And again, just in these times, to watch a huge, peaceful, loving gathering was also quite heartfelt to me.
We lost a woman here in Taos named Marjorie Felser the other day, Tuesday. She was in her mid-90s. She had been suffering from Parkinson's for a number of years, was living up in the canyon with her daughter, Sue Felser, who is a retired veterinarian many of us knew and used. Sue has Parkinson's now too, I'm sad to say. And so think good thoughts about them both.
And these stones are for the sorrows and joys we carry in our hearts, not yet ready to be spoken.
The excerpt from Carl Sagan's Pale Blue Dot that I'm going to read to you now was inspired by an image taken by Voyager 1 on February 14th, 1990. Voyager 1 was about 4 billion miles away when it captured a photograph of our world. In that famous photo, Earth appears as a tiny point of light. Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician,
every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. The earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity and all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known. I invite you to join me in a spirit of meditation, taking a comfortable seat, shaking off whatever stresses you brought in with you today. Taking a deep breath and letting it go. Hearing the soft breath around you and knowing that you are in a safe place among friends. And in your mind's eye, I invite you to imagine that you climb a mountain. It's easy going this time. And as you arrive at the top, at the peak of that mountain, go ahead and look down. There you may see your home, your town, your community. Further out away, even to other towns and communities. And you might notice from this height how the worries of life seem to become smaller in this perspective. In this perspective that encompasses all the nature that surrounds us, all the people that are our neighbors, and all the plants and animals too. And from this high point on the mountain,
You might imagine that you rise into the air. You're safe. You rise and rise, your breath deep and slow and calm, until you're able to look back and see that pale blue dot that is our planet, our Earth, our home. The place where you live, all your loved ones live, all the people that you hate, all the people that anger you, and the vast majority, all the people you do not know and will never know. And all the plants and all the animals too. And looking down at this place that is home, I invite you to join me in this loving kindness meditation, wishing to all beings on this planet, this pale blue dot, enveloped by the cosmic darkness. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be well. May you know peace. Taking one more look in loving kindness at this planet, and breathing out, floating gently back to the mountaintop. And then from the mountains, descending back down to this place, this time. Still carrying that loving kindness in your heart. Taking one more deep breath in and letting it go. And gently letting your eyes flutter open if they were closed. In the Hebrew scriptures, the book of Deuteronomy is the last chapter in the life of the prophet Moses. For 40 years, Moses, his brother Aaron, and sister Miriam have led the Israelites through the wilderness, taking them from a state of enslavement in Egypt to a promised land, a land flowing with milk and honey. After 40 years of wandering, most of the original pilgrims have died, and it's their adult children and their children who are now led by Moses and his siblings. But as the Israelites finally arrive at the edge of their destination, Miriam dies, and then Aaron. And then God tells Moses that soon he too will join the ancestors. Despite all he has done for his people, Moses will not be allowed to enter the promised land with them. And as if this isn't painful enough, God tells Moses that the Israelites will not fare well in that land. They are destined to have many terrible troubles after Moses dies. What would it feel like to give your all, to help a group of people, only to find out that they will have to go on without you? And that, in effect, they are doomed to suffer. Well, despite God's dire words about their future misery, despite the Israelites' constant complaining and the outright rebellions that Moses has had to contend with over the course of their long wandering, Moses leaves his people not with a curse, but with a blessing. Even though Moses knows that the Israelites will face more wars and disasters in the future, in his final blessing, he tells them that all will be well. He shares this vision with them, quote, Israel lives in safety. Untroubled is Jacob's abode in a land of grain and wine, where the heavens drop down dew. Unquote. After this, Moses goes to the mountaintop, where he looks down onto the land where his people will live, and then he dies. The 1968 Memphis sanitation workers' strike was the last chapter in the life of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. He had gone to support the strike despite threats on his life, and on April 3rd, 1968, he gave what turned out to be his last speech. He would be assassinated the very next day. This extemporaneous speech began with King imagining how he would respond if God offered him the chance to live at any point in history. He imagines gliding through the centuries, looking down at different places and eras, beginning with those Israelites in the desert and moving on to his current day. Ultimately, he says, if given the choice, he would want to be alive right then, in the second half of the 20th century, in part because it was so terrible that people couldn't look away from the atrocities. It was a time for action because inaction was no longer an option. So much of this last speech is powerful in its inspired call to fight for the well-being of all of our siblings in the human family. But it's the last paragraph that is uncanny in its prophetic vision. You heard it in our opening words today. After talking about the threats that have been made on his life, King says, quote, well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead, but it doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop and I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know that we as a people will get to the promised land. Unquote. Here, Reverend King is clearly drawing a connection between himself and Moses. And on the surface, the parallel seems both tragic and hopeful. Tragic because, like Moses, Martin seems to know that he will die before his people see the victory for which they have fought for so long. But hopeful because he seems confident that victory will happen. Like Moses, he is telling the people with his final words that all will be well. And in fact, it was only 1 week after his assassination, 8 days after King talked about seeing the promised land,
that President Johnson signed the Fair Housing Act of 1968, prohibiting discrimination in the sale and rental of housing. But no single law, no group of laws could usher in a promised land of racial equity. And Reverend King had to know this. He had to know on what turned out to be the eve of his murder that the reign of white supremacy in the United States was far from over. King had to have known that over 350 years of oppression of Black people wouldn't just end one day in the 20th century, after which everyone would live happily ever after. He admits in his speech that there will be some difficult days ahead, but he had to have known that it wouldn't be a matter of weeks or months. King might have had a dream, but he wasn't a starry-eyed optimist. Increasingly, in the later part of his life, Reverend King realized that racism wasn't the only scourge on the soul of America. There were also the evils of economic exploitation and militarism. He knew that even if progress had been made in the area of civil rights, the unholy trinity of racism, poverty, and war still loomed, posing a much larger threat than even the most stalwart segregationist. In an earlier speech in 1967, Reverend King had said, quote, "We are moving into a new phase of the struggle. It is now a struggle for genuine equality on all levels. And this will be much more difficult. It didn't cost the nation anything to integrate lunch counters. It didn't cost the nation anything to integrate hotels and motels. Now we are in a period where it will cost the nation billions of dollars to get rid of poverty, to make quality integrated education a reality. This is where we are now. Now we're going to lose some friends." Unquote. So Reverend King knew that the promised land was not coming anytime soon. He knew that many of the white allies who marched with him in Selma would lose interest once their privilege and their pocketbooks came into the picture. Nonetheless, at the end of his final speech, he chooses not to be afraid. He chooses not to worry. He chooses even to be happy. If Reverend King didn't see a land of milk and honey just on the other side of the civil rights struggle, what did he see from the mountaintop that made him so courageous, so peaceful? Maybe what he saw wasn't the promised land so much as the really big picture. That same sweep of history with which he began that last speech, where he flew looking down like an eagle from on high on the patterns of human struggles, one century after another. Looking at life this way, from such a height, even the most terrible turn of events is just that, a turn. Things will get really, really bad, but things will eventually change for the better. And then they may get bad again. But if we can see from the perspective of the mountaintop, no situation lasts forever. And there is always the chance for change. There's no reason to fear any puffed up tyrant, because every tyrant will eventually fall. There's no reason to worry that the death of one great leader will bring down the downfall of the movement, because new leaders will emerge. The struggle for justice will go on. The recent murder of Renee Nicole Good by an ICE agent, as well as all the other assaults on immigrants and US citizens, have been horrific. And the more we learn about the situation, the more terrifying it becomes. It is easy to get mired in fear, and for white folks to be sunk with guilt and shame over the blatant racism that still dominates our country. We are living in a terrible time. But one of the things that Martin Luther King Jr. said in his final speech is that sometimes it needs to get very dark before we can see the stars. Life in a terrible time might even be a blessing, because, as Reverend King said about the 1960s, we are called to act when inaction is no longer an option. The misogyny, white supremacy, and other forms of hatred that we have seen on display are real, and they have been with us for a very long time. But this does not mean that we should despair and say there is no hope for change. It's during a crisis moment like this where we all need to go to the mountaintop to get perspective, to see what is really happening, especially for those of us who have lived much of our lives in relatively safe bubbles. We need to climb up and out of our privilege to see what the world is really like. That view from above can help us to understand that the world is much, much bigger than our current moment and our current situation. Like Moses, we have a choice between cursing others or blessing them. Like Martin Luther King, we can see the situation as dire and yet choose to not be afraid. And yes, many of us who are alive right now may never get to the promised land. But the view from the mountaintop tells us that someday the people will.
Thank you for that message to our souls. We give to this congregation from our talents, our attention, our work, and our fiscal resources. Now is the time to share fiscally as we pass the baskets. These resources enable us to maintain our services and give to those chosen organizations to extend our values into the community. and your gifts.
In just a moment, we will sing our hymn for the day, which is number 169 in your hymnals. It's "We will overcome, we shall overcome." This is a gospel song that was sung by civil rights leaders and protesters as they faced attack dogs and water hoses and armed police and angry, hate-filled crowds. So let's sing this song today in honor of those who fought with courage and of those who continue to fight today. Please rise in body or in spirit. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we will walk in hand someday. We shall all be free. We shall all be free. We shall all be free someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall all be free someday. We will live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall live in peace someday. Remain as you are. We extinguish our chalice. Words are in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please be seated. And I invite you to remain seated through the postlude as we take a moment in quiet before preparing to go out to do good work in the world. But first, these closing words from anti-apartheid activist and the first democratically elected president of South Africa, Nelson Mandela. I have walked that long road to freedom. I have tried not to falter. I have made missteps along the way, but I have discovered the secret that after climbing a great hill,
one only finds that there are many more hills to climb. I have taken a moment here to rest, to steal a view of the glorious vista that surrounds me, to look back on the distance I have come. But I can only rest for a moment, for with freedom come responsibilities, and I dare not linger, for my long walk is not yet ended. Dear ones, as we look from the mountaintop, may we see a brighter future, even if it's one we personally may not experience ourselves, knowing that one day the people will. May we find the strength, the resolve, the love to keep going, even in the darkest of times. Because, as Martin Luther King reminded us, it's in the darkness that we can see the stars. May it be so.